So if you haven't been paying attention to the Escape from Tarkov dev Twitter accounts, then you may not be aware that the next wipe will be one of the last in the game before 1.0 releases. And the devs have been hinting that this wipe will be the hardcore wipe, and there's been a lot of speculation online on exactly what that will mean and what changes will be brought to the game just before 1.0. A lot of people believe that a hardcore wipe will mean no flea market at the very beginning, or at the very least not until later on in the wipe closer to 1.0's release. Now, earlier this year in January, we had a 5 to 6 week window where the flea market wasn't in the game. The biggest difference here, though, is we had the expectation that it would return. So a lot of players were holding on to ammunitions that would sell well on the flea market, body armors, different types of plates, anything that they weren't going to be using that was under 40 pen, tier 4 body armor, materials that were used for barters for tier 5, tier 6 body armors, rare scopes, that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of hoarding that was happening with the anticipation of making a lot of money on the flea market. So hypothetically, if the hardcore wipe actually means no flea market at all, then that means the bulk of your gear is going to be coming directly from in your raids or the dealers themselves. A couple of years ago, this would have been a problem because we were all sharing the exact same dealer reset cycles and global trade limitations. But now we're all individualized with the traders, which is a very good thing. So you don't have to be waiting on the trader exactly whenever it restarts to buy the ammunition and the items that you want to buy, or something that you unlocked that's really cool from completing a quest. There's also been massive expansions to the types of ammunitions that you can actually find in the raids themselves, and finding rare ammunition inside of ammo boxes that are generated in certain locations like on Woods or Reserve, or even in rooms like 219 on Shoreline. I know the devs have said multiple times that they're not going to be removing the flea market from the game, and that's completely fine. That's their game, it's their choice, but it certainly does feel like over the years we have been moving slowly away from the reliance and the dependency of using that system, especially for buying quest items, then by getting your hideout items, then by purchasing the rarest ammunitions and the rarest loots and the rarest body armor. It used to be a complete free market, and there's a big debate on whether or not that was better for the game or worse, and now we're moving to the point where it's pretty much only used for mid-tier PvP, body armors, ammunitions, attachments, medications, ways to allow players who only play arena or don't want to do any of the tasks, and once they hit level 15, they can use the money to buy things that are not the best, but are decent enough where they could PvP, because a lot of the best gear in the game right now is obtainable by looting it in the raid, or by unlocking good barters by completing quests, or sadly playing a lot of Escape from Tarkov Arena and just getting it from Ref. And I say sadly because Ref is so overtuned, and it definitely feels like they want players to go and really play Arena so they can get these incredibly OP rewards that just make all the other traders feel not as powerful or meaningful. So let's say the rumors are true, and we're going to be getting a no flea market Escape from Tarkov for the next wipe, the last wipe before 1.0. There's a couple of things that I would personally like to see added to the game to make the player's experience feel a lot more streamlined, smooth, and fun, because you don't want to make it unnecessarily cruel and difficult, because that's not necessarily the point of Hardcore Tarkov. It's to make the game more fun, exciting, and interesting, right? So that is the ultimate goal and vision that they should have. You don't want to be punishing to the point where people are just not feeling like their time is being respected. The first thing that I would like to see is improved crafting times. Not spending hours and hours and hours crafting ammunitions, especially the lower tier ones, or different types of weapons, gear, rigs, supplies. If there's going to be Hardcore Tarkov and no flea market, you definitely want to incentivize people crafting their gear. Look at games like Arc Raiders. You don't have to spend a lot of time waiting for things to be complete. I think Escape from Tarkov needs to look in that direction for a hardcore wipe, especially if you want people to level up their hideout, make it really worthwhile, incentivize that gameplay loop of scavenging materials to create something that will improve your chances of survival. More meaningful crafts, more exciting crafts, but then also not having to wait an entire day to utilize what you're working towards. So whatever time seam that is up for debate, whether it be a few minutes to about 45 minutes. It depends on the item, but I don't really want to see anything that's going to take longer than a couple of hours unless it's something like the Cultist Circle, Bitcoin Farm, Moonshine Crafting, that kind of stuff. Making PS 545 should only take a few minutes. Making a BlackRock rig should only take a few minutes or almost immediately, right? Like we're talking a couple of minutes. Shouldn't be hours, shouldn't be days. The second big topic when it comes to Hardcore Tarkov is key accessibility, especially for keys that are related to quests that are gatekeeping other quests, like all logistics, for example. There should be ways that you can get access to these a lot simpler than just looking through a very specific location for hours on end, going through filing cabinets and hoping to get lucky. There's got to be more. So there's a number of different options. They could add more key barters to therapists for every single key that is quest related. They could introduce a new trader that is specifically there for getting keys, maybe having tasks that allow you to complete to access those keys, maybe even tools like different types of clays and then going to a place in your hideout to craft a key, maybe introducing lockpicking but at a very rudimentary level where you can use an item to unlock a door that isn't reinforced, and you can also make all the quests in the game that are gatekeeped early level quests easy to lockpick, where late stage ones like the rusted key, for example, or marked keys make them very difficult or just not possible to use the lockpicking tool on. There's lots of different ways that they can do it, but making keys more accessible or giving players the ability to craft their own or do more barters will be essential for a game mode like Hardcore Tarkov to exist without upsetting a big portion of the player base. Third thing would be more meaningful task rewards. Whenever you complete a mission, you should feel like you've unlocked something really important, especially now that the flea market isn't going to be available. So accessing more rare ammunitions, more attachments, more unique opportunities, maybe pre-built guns that are actually a value trade. I think we got to get back to more like value deals that are available every trade or reset that's worth the player grinding out different missions and getting that reward. There's too many one-for-one value trades or trades that are just horrible value that nobody ever wants to do. So more value trades, more the good rewards would be really great that I would love to see added to the game, just to encourage people to actually do the missions in Hardcore Tarkov so they unlock something really cool, like class 4, class 5 body armor trades, more unique ammunitions, maybe you can get ammunition at a discount but in a smaller quantity, you know, like maybe you can unlock more 545 PS but it's cheaper, you know, that kind of stuff. Like there's lots of avenues that they could explore to make it better, and better task rewards is one of them. The fourth thing that I would like to see is better level 1 guns. At the very least, if you're Bear, you should be able to buy an AK-74 or 74N from Prapor, and if you're USEC, you should be able to buy an M4A1 with 30 round mags from level 1 Peacekeeper. Maybe it's just that, right? But the very beginning, level 1, you're just not given that many weapons or different choices. A wider range of just like weird 20 round magazine choices would be cool. I know they have the AUG and you're limited with the magazine size. Maybe double down on that and add a few more weapons with weird magazine sizes just to give players more options than like a, you know, AK-209 with a weird suppressor with EKO rounds, or I guess in this case it would be FMJ, or too many ammunitions that are limited to 20 pen only. I think it would be okay, especially in Hardcore Tarkov, that there's 1 or 2 weapons that are available, at least depending on your faction. I think that would be really cool and would make a little bit more sense. The same goes for medications. If you're going to be doing Hardcore Tarkov, then there needs to be more one-for-one value medication barters, or more barters that are available, or medications that you can purchase in small quantities per reset that are actually worth unlocking with therapists. Doing quests that have meaningful rewards for medications will be really, really important. It will push the player to want to unlock something to make it more meaningful, or even better barters in the hideout, although the medical barters in the hideout are actually not that bad. So if you sped up the medical barter crafting times, like I mentioned earlier in this video, it would be a large incentive for players to actually level up their hideout to get access to the tools that they're used to using. And an unpopular opinion about medication, maybe it's time that we remove Goldenstar as one of the best medical items for pre-medding and start using alcohol, like a 2-slot vodka bottle that's 5 to 10 uses, or a whiskey bottle that's 5 to 10 uses that has a painkiller effect that's good for pre-medding makes far more sense than a 1-slot 10-use item that becomes the best pre-med medical item in the game or near it. So we're getting to that point where things like that can change, and I think alcohol is a good way to explore pre-medding, like taking a shot out of a 1x1 slot like whiskey flask, or like maybe a refillable moonshine flask that you can actually fill up and put it into your secured container. Stuff like that, and then using alcohol to have negative debuffs on your character. The more you drink in the raid, the more you pre-med, the more drawbacks there are later on. Maybe less stamina regeneration, maybe you have a little bit of stability issue with your aim down sight speed, that kind of stuff. So moving more away from what we traditionally have. Hell, you can even add a drinking skill that reduces the effect of alcoholism if you pre-med all the time. There's ways to make the game more interesting in that respect. And I think there's so many cool medical items that are just, undertuned, I guess is the word. And we also have alcohol that doesn't really have a really good place in the game. But I think culturally speaking, especially where Tarkov is based out of, and then also with all the ridiculous medical items that we already have that provide insane benefits, I don't think it'd be a bit of a stretch making vodka, whiskey, beers, craftable moonshines more meaningful for pre-medication purposes, for pre-fight purposes. Now, it's important to remember that right now, as of June 29th, this is all speculative. I don't think it's also going to be similar to my Escape for Tarkov hardcore rules. There's been a lot of people saying that online. It's not going to be that crazy. I think just doing the suggestions or adding something similar to what I've suggested in this video would just make the experience a lot more fun and enjoyable and turn Tarkov into a game that feels more alive and exciting whenever you're completing your raids. Now, the final topic I'm going to talk about in this video is, of course, the most popular counter argument to something like no flea market, which it's going to hurt the casual player of the game. Now, I'm not going to try to completely change your opinion on this, but I want you to hear me out for a minute. The complete sweat lords are always going to have more money, more gear, and more advantage than you in Escape for Tarkov. Having access to the flea market actually makes it more difficult for the regular player to defeat people that are playing this game all the time. The best items in the game aren't class 4 body armors or ammunitions that are slightly under 40 pen. It's class 5, class 6 body armor, and pen ammo over level 40. And all of those are obtainable by either in-raid activities, barters with traders that you unlock at late stage quests or level 4 traders, level 3 traders, or in the hideout at the final stages of leveling up your hideout all the way. Having access to the flea market means that these players have the ability to do those barters every trade reset and make sure their crafts are on the go all the time without actually entering a single raid, other than making some money. So the incentive of Escape for Tarkov changes from scavenging this really cool wasteland and trying to find interesting items that are scattered around the world, or collecting cool barter items and extracting them from the raid. It becomes how to make the most money in the most efficient way possible, so you can just buy the barter items directly from the flea market to get your crafts going, to get your high tier body armor directly from the traders, not actually doing that yourself. Now, don't get it twisted. All these players are really skilled at the game, and they're going to be able to do this without any problem. But not everybody plays the game at their level, and they're doing the same thing. This means you're going to have a wider range of players that are using gear from level 2, 3, 4, 5 body armors with different types of traders that are going to be hunting around the world, going to different locations, trying to find the items they need for their quests or their barters or craftables, instead of just necessarily relying on making the most income all the time. But that also means you're going to be getting weapons that are not always structured in a meta weapon archetype. You're going to be having much more variety with the attachments that you see, the ammunition that players are using, the types of optics that players are running. There's going to be far more variety from the player types that you find in the raid, and less cookie cutter builds from gear that's always available from the flea market or barters that are always available from the flea market. I think Escape for Tarkov is a game that had an initial vision and scope of more survival, scavenge, more immersive gunplay that later mixed in with more of a competitive, replayable BR-style shooter audience, and both of those audiences have consistently clashed over the years on what the best version of Escape for Tarkov is. And in the EFT communities online, obviously there's been a lot of clashing on social media over a Hardcore Tarkov wipe. And what I'll say is, if it sucks, the devs are going to change it back. And if it's really good, this might be the new way forward. And we'll have to just wait and see. And at the end of the day, it's just a game, so it's not that big of a deal. I know it is to a lot of people who play this every single day, but I'm just here to have fun. And I personally think Hardcore Tarkov is a lot of fun. And I have a unique perspective where I've played the game for years, publicly and privately, without the flea market, while also playing with the flea market. And I've enjoyed both flavors of Escape for Tarkov. And admittedly, it's been a very long time, and the game is very different since we didn't have a flea market. So I think now is the best time to see exactly what the game plays like without access to the flea market before they launch 1.0. There's never been a better time to experiment. And if it sucks, then don't worry. I'm sure they'll be bringing the flea market back. Everybody will be super vocal about bringing it back, and whenever 1.0 launches, it will certainly be there at some capacity. Now, the last thing I'll say is on more of a personal level. Whenever the Escape for Tarkov wipe happens in July, there's a very good chance that I will not be here. My daughter is going to be born in a couple of weeks, and if it's anything like my son, who was born on a wipe day, she will probably be born on the day of the hardcore wipe, which is quite fitting, which is kind of funny. So I'll be taking a few weeks off, so I will likely be checking out the hardcore wipe sometime in August, but I will be, of course, reading all the comments and all the feedback on the social media platforms of everybody complaining or enjoying it or whatever the discourse may be. But as always, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Please let me know what you think of the Hardcore Tarkov wipe, whether or not it even will be a hardcore wipe. Maybe they'll still be the flea market, who knows? But and if you're new to the channel, subscribe here for some more content, which rarely gets uploaded these days, but I do live streams here on YouTube and on Twitch Monday through Friday starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as lots of fun clips from the live stream are uploaded here on YouTube and other platforms. So thanks again for your support. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Thanks for listening, especially if you have a different opinion than mine. That's completely okay. Like, I'm probably wrong on a lot of this stuff, but I'm excited to see what this is going to be. So we'll see how it turns out.